go. Okay, we only have 20 minutes to film this because I got some bread in the oven. Welcome to Laney Loves Books. My name's Laney Luv. I am your host. And this is the review of all the books that I read for the month of February. Okay, first up we've got Convenience Store Woman. Can you see it? By Sayaka Murata. Should I make this like a smash or pass edition? Because this could go a lot quicker. This was great. This book was really like a subtle commentary on like patriarchy, feminism, a woman. She works for a convenience store and she really has no other ambitions to be something else. Everyone else just kind of determines her sort of worth in society and they try to encourage her to do more, but she's just extremely happy at being good at what she does and loving the job that she does. She meets a coworker who's like a super disgruntled male, and he then kind of gaslights her, brainwashes her into thinking that they would be a good couple together. And it's a very short book, but it's an excellent story. And I liked how it ended, and it felt really like, yeah. So I definitely would recommend The Convenience Store Woman. It's a super fun read. You will get through it in like, if you're a fast reader, 3 hours. Otherwise, it takes you an afternoon. All right, let's see what the next one is. Ooh. The next one is, oh, come on, focus, please. Klara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I hope I'm pronouncing these names right. This is a smash. This is a yes from me. It's a story about the future. Not really quite sure when in the future the story takes place, but AI and robots are real. Klara, she is, what do they call her, an AF? And she is purchased by this girl whose family has a secret about the health and the condition of this girl. Basically, there are children born of the world who have like modified human abilities, but for some of these kids, they don't survive into adulthood. And basically, Klara is brought on to learn and mimic her purchaser. I forgot what this girl's name is. Quality reviews again, ladies and gentlemen. This is like the best. I don't want to give away all of the whole story, but basically, when Klara, the robot, finds out that the girl that she's been purchased by is not well, Klara prays to the sun, and like Klara has this whole dialogue with the sun consistently. She communicates with the sun as though she communicates with God. This story is so good. I loved it. It's a highly recommend from my end, so definitely yes to Klara and the Sun. Gotta get my head together. I'm just thinking bread's gotta be made and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry, we got this. The next book that I read that on February 8th, was How a Woman Becomes a Lake. Can we focus this? Also a smash. Great book by Marjorie Celona, or Celona. Marjorie, you wrote a great book. It's very subtle. Starts off with, you see into the glimpse of this family that has like a dysfunctional component to it. You've got an abusive dad, a mom who's overwhelmed, 2 children. One of the children is his favorite. The other one is clearly not. They go out to a frozen lake because the dad wants to teach his kids how to shoot. And a whole bunch of stuff happens from this trip to the lake. It goes through like the emotions of keeping secrets and relationships, and when children have to keep secrets and what happens. And there's another side story of a gentleman who's like an intellectual who has a very brilliant wife, and she also goes missing. Without giving up too much away, these 2 stories are linked, and there are lots of people in between and a lot of secrets kept between. Very well written book. I empathized with every character in the book. The amount of people that were involved in what happened and the effects that it had on their lives was incredible. And even though many of them were at fault, you still felt for them. So that, for a writer to be able to do that from an old ass cynic like myself, bravo to her. So definitely a smash. No, I'm not gonna do smash or pass anymore, okay? Definitely a book I would recommend reading. I finished I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. You know what? I love sci-fi, and this one was actually written like in the 50s. It thinks that the future would look like very different in 2021. It's very much about the robot revolution and how robots become free thinkers based on this one anomaly that happened during their development, and only with like a small subset group of robots that were built. Robots that are brought into existence, they have like 3 laws that they have to follow. They can't injure or harm any human being in any way. They have to obey orders given to them by humans. And robots have to also protect their own existence. So, that's my bread. Hold on, I'm gonna be right back. It's okay, we're good. Still got some more time. Basically, those 3 rules or laws confine the robots that exist to live within the parameters of human nature. Now, what happens is some of these robots, they actually have logic and reason. So they start to mentally disobey and actually not take orders from humans. And at this point, humans are already on other planets, mining, and like, it's very complex. And they bring in like a robot psychologist who completely breaks down and understands what's actually happening within this sort of robotic revolution, like a mental revolution. Actually, it's surprising that this book was written in like the 50s, but they really did have a different view of what 2022 would look like right now. So I think it's a long read, and it can be a bit long-winded, but it's an excellent book when it comes to talking about the future. It's like, to me, feels like the original Robot book. Definitely, I would recommend it. It's slow, and it's very different than the movie I, Robot, so there are no links to either. Love it. Smash. Definite smash. Next book, The Lost Daughter by Elena Ferrante, yeah. You know what? This is the smash. This book, I can see why they made it into a movie. I watched the movie as well. Didn't like the movie. They tried their best to stay true to the book, but the book is about a woman who's on vacation, and she goes to vacation by herself, and she is just fed up. Like, you can just tell she's excellent at her job. She's a professor. She doesn't have any real like love in her life. She's just going through the motions. You find out that she didn't take on this sort of maternal role like most women are expected to do within marriages and relationships. So she has a disconnect between her family because she basically left her daughters with her husband at the time, and that built a lot of resentment, but she chose her career over family. Now, while on vacation, this family that is like totally disrupting everybody's sort of peace. They had this little daughter. The daughter goes missing. The woman on the beach was just trying to mind her own business. She ends up finding the daughter and secretly stealing the daughter's toy. It becomes clear why she steals the toy, but you don't understand why she doesn't give it back right away. But it is so layered. It is super complex. To me, it's a very modern, like, feminist novel, because it's when women choose their careers over their families and have no qualms about that, but how society kind of forces certain people into boxes that they just don't fit. And she is a very, very layered character. You feel for her at the end of it, and you kind of just feel for everybody involved again. Again, these books that are bringing out my empathy. It's kind of, I appreciate you. You know, I love these sort of books that kind of counter that eat, pray, love. You go on vacation, you go far away to find yourself. This woman is like, no, none of that. When you travel, you take all of your shit with you, and you take your baggage with you, you take your nonsense with you, and other people bring their nonsense too. It's not always this sort of paradise, kind of perfect, idyllic situation. So I enjoyed this book tremendously. Definitely would recommend. Next book, oh gosh, let's see what's next. Can you see it? Nick and Charlie. Another Alice Oseman book, YA. Nick and Charlie. I would say smash, but I'd go to jail because they're underage characters in this book. I don't know. How do you keep I want to keep myself safe. This is a safe channel. It's a very cute book because it's a short story and it's definitely geared to like younger people who are in relationships, in high school, and trying to figure out how they can survive their relationships when transitioning to like outside high school life. Nick and Charlie are two boys that are in love, and one is a year younger than the other. I kept interchanging between them. One of them is going off to university and preparing for that and leaving the other boyfriend behind. They cause a little bit of teen drama with like creating some scenario that doesn't actually exist as yet and making their lives miserable and sad, but it has a really nice message of you might have found your soulmate when you were super young. You won't know. You just have to keep trying if you want to try. If you truly love someone, it doesn't matter what age you are. Love is love. And I liked how the story just felt very full, very rich. So yeah, next books. Oh, I read really more magazines this month than anything. Oh, next book. Yinka, Where is Your Husband? By Lizzie, Damilola, Blackburn. You know what? I'm gonna say this one's a pass. I loved Chewing Gum by Michaela Cole. When that came out, that was hilarious. The story, the perspective, the wittiness, the quickness, it was all there. I love stories of first generation immigrants in countries that are funny and there's so many nuances and quirks. This book was not that. It tried to be like Chewing Gum and it upset me because it literally was almost the Wish version of Chewing Gum. It was like copy and paste. Yinka is a very Christian, like devout Christian virgin. I think she's into her early 30s or whatnot. Everybody's like, why aren't you married? Why aren't you married? At the core of the story, Yinka's a terrible person. Her friends are amazing. They're tolerant. They love her. They try to support her. And she throws them under the bus just because she's like, I need to find a man. She starts wearing wigs and she's like, she becomes a different person in order to just attract a husband. But in that process, she throws all of her friends and everybody that loves her under the bus. It does have like a nice wrapped up ending. To me, it was just like a copy paste of Chewing Gum. And I really found that to be irritating because it wasn't well done in a book form. I did not care what happened to Yinka because I was like, she's such a terrible person. Why should I care about her? I care about her friends who are trying to show her spirituality and love and enlightenment. And it was just, it was a pass for me. I don't think it wasn't very good. I don't even think it was well written. It was very much like, and then she said this, and then he said that, and there was no depth. So pass. Yikes. That really, it was unfortunate, and especially in Black History Month. I can't be doing this to my Black authors. Cannot, but sorry. 'Twas a no. Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Dude, this was weird. This book was about time travel. Hold on. That's the okay. Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Ooh, maybe? Okay. Maybe. It starts out with this boyfriend and girlfriend couple going to this small little cafe in Japan, and the boyfriend basically breaks up with the girl and she's sort of shocked by it because she's like this career girl that everybody wants. She's blindsided by the news. And this cafe, there's a history of like time travel. You find out that it's actually a true story because there are only like 6 or 7 people within this cafe. And so the girl who was just broken up with is like, I need to travel back in time to a week before this happens. I just need to travel back in time. Let me do it. And they said, okay, you can travel back in time, but these are the rules. You cannot leave the cafe if you travel time. You can only sit in this specific chair that person was sitting in. And you have to come back from the past before your coffee gets cold. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck there. So the woman that's currently occupying the chair, she's a ghost. Even though she's real, she's a ghost. She stayed too long in the past. So her body still exists there, but she's like, if you touch her, you'll get cursed. And it's very complicated because she doesn't also leave the chair until she needs to leave. When the woman leaves the chair to actually go up and go pee, that's when you can sit in the chair and time travel. Every character that's in the cafe, you follow every sort of storyline of why these people are all there, and you find out that they've all traveled to the past to see what becomes of it. you know what? Great story. I was like, it was very beautifully done. And you've realized that people don't travel to the past to necessarily change it. They travel to the past in order to heal their present. Very well done. Hamnet and Judith, or Hamnet as it's called in Canada, by Maggie O'Farrell. Can we get you in focus? Can you get in focus? There we go. Yo. I love this book. Okay, so as a kid, went to a school for the arts, and we read a lot of, like, we had to study Shakespeare at like 11, 12 years old. We were studying soliloquies, we were going through deep analysis of Shakespearean plays, etc. And this one reads exactly like a Shakespearean play. It's set in like 1500s, so 16th century England. And there's a woman, she's quite like free-spirited, she's almost like a fae. She has very natural abilities with healing and being a woman of the wild. She meets a young guy who's has a very abusive father and ran up a lot of debts and like really tainted the family's name. So this young guy has to go around teaching their children as an educator. He's miserable, but then he meets this woman and he falls in love with her. Basically, you go through this story and the young man leaves this woman with the children alone, and there's like a plague that was running through, like a strange grip of some sort, like grippe, flu. Spreads through the village, infects one of her children, and it's just such a layered story, and you don't realize who the main gentleman is, even though I just gave you a hint, because it focuses on his wife and his wife's perils and journeys and how that actually fueled the career of the husband. Did any of that make sense? No? Okay, that's fine. This book was well written. I definitely would recommend it because I was reading it and I was like, nothing sounded familiar until the one moment, which was like close to the last, 150 pages of the book, where I was like, oh, this is who this book is talking about. That's dope. Would never have guessed. Aces. Next book I read, because this is for book club, so we're going to be talking about it when I have the Brownfields book club next month. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jayne Allen. I wanted to love this book. This book is a smash, but like I might not stay after for dinner or drinks or whatever. It might be a quickie. It's more of a quickie rather than like a full smash. It just feels very familiar. It's a book about a young woman who has a lot of anxiety about her career being Black in America. She was pulled over by the police, and it kind of takes you through that anxiety from that point of the book. Like, it takes you through her managing her anxiety and coping in this world where so many factors are kind of coming at her. I think the book could maybe have been like 100 pages shorter, and that would have been a tighter, more succinct story. But it was a story that needs to be told nonetheless, because that anxiety that you can feel as a woman of color when you are trying to venture out on your own and do things, because there's also a dangerous component, like there's an actual danger of being physically harmed when you are just doing something like driving in your car by yourself. Or it's a very real, it's very 21st century, this story. You get the sense that Tabitha Walker is walking through life just in a constant anxious state, and she's trying her best. Some of her challenges are brought on from her overanalyzing things, but some of them are just straight up real. The microaggressions she's experiencing at work, being pulled over by the police and just fearing for her life. She's in a relationship with someone that's really not going well. She finds out issues about her fertility. It's like stress that she cannot necessarily eliminate from her life just because of the way that society is structured. Ooh, I think I did that. That's what it is. Basically, it's a book that is very layered, and I'm not sure if this is Jayne Allen's first book, but it was a well done effort, because you can feel that anxiety throughout the book. Yes, okay. Some books I started and I didn't finish, but so I'm only showing you the books that I've completed for the month. This book was called Admissions by Henry Marsh. Henry Marsh is a real neurosurgeon in real life, a brain surgeon. A bit of a memoir of his life as a brain surgeon, both in England and his work in Nepal. how he gets sued and his general attitude towards life and his job and his career is really interesting because he's quite distant about so many things. The only thing he cares is he really advocates for how people want to end their lives. So he's really a supporter of right to life. And so if you want to end your life and go to like Switzerland and do it, he truly thinks that the UK needs to make some changes about that. But like, he's like, I was not a great neurosurgeon. I made some mistakes. Sometimes he'd be like, oh, there's nothing I can do. That person just is gonna die. And he doesn't believe in God, so he's not spiritual. He's just very factual, very scientific about what the brain is and what the brain is in relation to the body. He's an okay storyteller. He's very disconnected. But the story was kind of patchy too. It was not even like chronological. It was like, just goes to Nepal, and you're not quite sure at what point, if it's only at the end of his career that he goes to Nepal or not. But in this book in particular, I didn't like the doctor of the neurosurgeon. I just didn't care for Henry Marsh. I guess it's kind of a pass. Any book you read, you can get something from it, I suppose. That was that. Oh, okay. I didn't read that much this month. So I was really not into reading too many books because I just felt like I overdid it for January. Can you hear me now? By Celina, Caesar-Chavannes. This story was totally very relatable. This woman is local. She grew up, it's like 40 kilometers away from where I'm from. So when she was talking about a lot of landmarks and places, I was like, yep, I know this place. I know where that is. It was very familiar. And also her journey through like the Canadian education system. It's a memoir. It's about this Canadian politician. Her name is Celina. She was the one who basically told Justin Trudeau to go himself, because he was just using her as a pawn politically to sort of seem diverse and like not like super ignorant as he is, especially during the Obama era, because he wanted to be like, yeah, Obama, we have black people too. We do black things, stuff. It's just a story about like where her life starts, which is in the Caribbean, and how she ends up in Canada with her family, and there's a lot of abuse in her home, and how she kind of overcomes all of that. She's very transparent. The way she writes is very real. You learn a lot about the Canadian schooling system, the structure that exists there, its flaws. It's crazy, it's good. And you then see her journey and how that brings her to Ottawa. I would recommend it. I want to give a lot of stuff away. It's a very well-written book. There's a lot that goes on. She is a character. She is definitely a brat, and she knows it. She just was like rebellious. She had this rebellious nature about her, and it comes really through in her stories and how she tells them. Yeah, definitely a smash. It's a good book. We need more black women Canadian writers talking about the experience of being here. Here we go. This is the last book of the month. Zadie Smith. See, that was returned February 27th, literally yesterday. I liked it. Short story. Oh my gosh, so much was packed in this short story. It took me an hour to read. Okay, so Fatu is a domestic worker. She works in this home of this family that has children. She goes to the sports club where she uses the family's guest passes to swim, because she loves to swim. And it's basically a sort of brief glimpse into the life of exploited workers that are living in the UK. And I say exploited because even though she doesn't see herself as being a slave, the family that she works for has taken her passport away from her. They don't pay her wages because they say, well, your wages are actually going to your rent to live here. And so she also can't buy her own food. She has to just eat what's there. But she doesn't see herself as being a slave. Shit. Okay. That's the bread. It's actually done. But, okay, I've got a couple minutes to do this. Basically, it's a story about that. She develops a friendship with this like really kind gentleman, and they go swimming together once at this place. And then she goes home, and it goes from there. It's a very good short story. Oh, what was I saying? I think I said enough about that book. It's a great book. I definitely recommend it as a read. It's very short, but it shows layers of immigration and not how there is still modified slavery that exists. At least it's oppressive work experiences for people in first world nations that's happening right under everybody's nose, and some people are just very passive about it. Like this, it's great. Definitely read it, definitely recommend. But basically that was my reading journey for the month of February. So this has been Laney Loves Books, February edition, smash or pass-ish-esque. You know, again, use the Libby app to read. It was really fun, it was really good. What am I talking about right now? Why am I out of breath? Yeah, okay, because the bread is like calling. Laney Love says goodbye and see you next month. Bye.